Hi, my name is Amy Pavlina. Today, I'm going to go over the Check for Understanding portion of Unit 4, Day 4. And for this part of the lesson, it's really about putting the Constitution framers into context for your students. And you really want your students to really dive deep and take a look at these framers to think, are these framers able to make a future nation for all the people who live within the United States? And they're really going to take this back onto their own and think, do these framers represent who I am and my community? Are they representing the people back then as well, as a whole? So let's go into it. I got these slides from Day 4, Unit 4. And we see the Check for Understanding. And you can keep these as well. I like to do it with the students because I think it's more powerful for you to guide them to really get that snapshot of the framers as a whole. So if you go ahead, you're going to see that you have the states, the framers, and a description of the framers. These descriptions are going to really come into handy when you start to create your Jamboard and your wordle, or whatever you'd like to use with your students to really get them speaking about these framers. And here's the rest of them. And then here's the questions that the lesson uses. You could use it this way, but one way I found more impactful with students is to get them thinking on a Jamboard. And another thing that you're going to need for this Check for Understanding is a slide with the preamble on it. You can create your own and get it a little bit more meeting the style guide that you use in your classroom, or you could use the one from Unit 4, Day 4, the Teach Hub lesson, and it's slide number 9 if you'd like to have it. And it will have for you already the vocabulary and the preamble to reread as a class, and it also has an audio version if you decide to have your students use this on their own independently. So let's go and see how are we going to make a Jamboard and then a Wordle with our class. So when making a Jamboard, the first thing you're going to do is come up to Google and go into your waffle up here, your Google Apps. And coming over to your Google Apps, you're going to go all the way down to Jamboard and click on it to create a new Jamboard. You're going to hit the plus tab, and that'll create a fresh Jamboard just for you. The next thing that I like to do with my class is I like to split this up into states. You can search for images using the Add Image button, and you could split it up by using the Shapes tool and using the bar. So let me show you what that could look like. Once I get my states and my lines, how I'd like to have it on the Jamboard, I'm going to go back into my presentation while I give this link to students to have open in the classroom, whether you're remote or digital or however they're working. So I'm going to give them the link by clicking share, changing the link to anyone with the link, and making them an editor. Now I could copy the link and drop it into my chat, or I could post it in the classroom, or even put it in some asynchronous work for students to click on the link as they're working. If I want them to do it this way, then I'll give them a little bit more directions in either the work that I'm leaving for them or on the Jamboard. But as I'm doing this, maybe remotely with my class to get collaboration up, I'm going to start reading about each state, the person, the framer, and the description. And I'm going to want to have students identify the key words they're hearing within the description. Maybe you're doing this as group work with students in breakout rooms where they're responsible for one or two states. Maybe you're doing this as a small group and the rest of the class is doing this asynchronously. It's completely up to you and you have the autonomy to do so. So let's see an example of how it might look once you're done. So once your students have added in all their noticings from you reading the descriptions, or maybe they're reading these in small groups, they're going to start to get an idea of who is from each state as a framer. And I really think that it's important for you to draw attention to the fact that Rhode Island was not here. Now that you have these great words, the next thing that you're going to do is go to word cloud. And there's a bunch of different wordle websites that you can use. If you search free wordle website, you'll come up with a bunch of them. But word cloud is pretty easy. So the first thing you're going to do is go to word list, and you're going to go to use the paste type dialog, and you're going to write all the words that you saw on the Jamboard. You could even get students to do this for you, or maybe they're doing it for each state, just to get an idea of all the framers. So let me show you how this looks once it's done. Now that I've completed entering all the words from my original Jamboard, so I looked at all the words, and I don't have many because it's just me putting it in to show an example, but your students might have a lot from your descriptions. I go and I hit apply right over here, and it's going to make my word cloud for me. And the words that come up more are going to be the big words, the bigger picture of these people. So just in looking at these words that we have repeated many times, they're going to be larger. So I see a lot of big words here: lawyer, rich, slave, owner, plantation, banker, owner. Once you get these words, students can start to think, yeah, you have Hamilton, who owes debt. He's not wealthy. He doesn't come from a rich family. But the majority of the framers of the Constitution were rich lawyers, plantation owners who owned slaves, who came from wealthy families, and they were bankers. So really, you have to think of who you have as the framers of the Constitution. This gives students an opportunity to really visually see those bigger words. And you could play around with your wordle as well. Once you've done this, you can go back into that check for understanding, and you can have students think, do you think these framers were similar to or different from the people living in the United States at this time? So now that they see that they were wealthy slave owners from plantations and lawyers, now they could really think, no, these do not represent the people of the United States at this time. This really doesn't even represent the people living here at this time. Once they look at the preamble, where they see that this is supposed to be for future generations. So is posterity really kept after the Constitution is made by these framers? Not really. And that's what you really want to drive home with students. You want to get them to start thinking about who these framers were and what story do they tell and what are they bringing to the Constitution, their beliefs, their personal ideas. So I hope this has been helpful as an idea that you could possibly use in your own classroom to get students to start thinking about putting the Constitution into context as a future nation for all.